Hi, I am Sivaya, lecturer in physics, working in Vignan institutions. In the previous session, I explained the Biot-Savart's law in moving charges and magnetism. In this session, I am going to explain the Ampere's circuital law in the moving charges and magnetism. Ampere's circuital law. Now come to the contents of this session. The first one is the introduction to the Ampere's law. Next, Ampere's circuital law. I am going to state and prove the Ampere's circuital law. And the last one is the applications. In these applications, I am going to explain the calculation of the magnetic induction produced by the long straight wire and also the cylindrical wire. Okay? Now come to the introduction. Suppose there are charges. There are charges in the space. We want to determine the intensity of the magnetic field produced by the charges at some point P. So what we have to do? So in the lesson moving charges in magnetism, we studied about the calculation of the intensity of the electric field by using a basic law, that is the Coulomb's inverse square law. So using that law, due to the first charge, due to the second charge, due to the third charge, and due to the fourth charge, we determine the individual intensities, and by adding all that, we determine the total intensity of the electric field produced by all the charges. The same can also be determined by using the another alternate method. That alternate method is the Gauss law. Okay? In the charges and fields, we study two laws. The basic law, Coulomb's inverse square law, and the alternate method, Gauss law, to determine the intensity of the electric field produced by the charges. Similar to that, if suppose there are current carrying conductors. Now due to this current carrying conductors, we want to determine the intensity of the magnetic field at point P. What we have to do? Here, in this moving charges in magnetism, the intensity of the magnetic field produced by the current carrying conductors can be determined by the basic law, that is the Biot-Savart's law. Using the Biot-Savart's law, we can determine the magnetic field produced by the first wire, second wire, and third wire separately. By adding them vectorically, we can determine the magnetic induction at point P. Here also, to minimize the complexity, we are going to use another method. So that alternate method is the Ampere's circuital law, which is used to determine the magnetic field produced by the current carrying wires. Okay? So the Biot-Savart's law is the basic law, whereas the Ampere's circuital law is the alternate method used to determine the intensity of the magnetic field produced by the current carrying conductors. Now we are going to study this alternate method, that is the Ampere's circuital law, in detail in this session. Now come to the Ampere's circuital law. Suppose, let us see the screen, there are two encircled cross marks and two dots. Let us assume that they are the infinite length straight current carrying conductors. So there are 4 straight infinite current carrying conductors. See here, these dots indicates that the directions of the currents are perpendicular to the board and coming out of the board like this. Whereas these encircled cross marks indicates that the directions of the currents are perpendicular to the board and entering into the board like this. This is the universal notation which is used to represent the direction of the currents. Now let us assume that I1, I2, I3 and I4 are the currents passing through the 4 wires. Okay? We want to determine the magnetic field produced by all these 4 wires at point P. So this can be done by using the Biot-Savart's law. Due to this first wire we can find out B1, due to the second wire, third wire and also fourth wire we can determine B2, B3 and B4, and by adding them vectorically we can determine the resultant magnetic induction value. Whereas in this Ampere circuit law we are going to follow a new procedure. For that, let us consider a closed loop which is passing through the point P. See here, that closed loop may be in any shape and in any size that is passing through the point P. Now the loop can be taken either in the clockwise direction or in the anti-clockwise direction. For the simplicity, let us assume the loop in the clockwise direction. See, this closed path or the loop which is passing through the point P is also called as the Amperian loop. This closed path or the loop which we assumed is called as the Amperian loop. Now let us divide the Amperian loop into the large number of the small elements like this. The loop is dividing into the large number of the small elements. In that, let us consider one small element of length dl. Now let us draw a tangent for that closed path at that element that gives the element vector dl bar. See, the direction of the dl bar is in the direction of the loop what we assumed. Now due to these wires, let us assume that B is the magnetic induction at that element. Okay? We know that B is a vector quantity and this dl bar is also a vector quantity. Take the dot product of the two vectors which can be written as B bar dot dl bar. B bar dot dl bar. That means here we consider one element and at that element B bar is the magnetic induction and dl bar is the element vector. For the two vectors we take the dot product. If suppose we take the integration over the closed path, if we take the integration over the closed path, it means that we are taking the line integral of the magnetic induction over a closed path. The Ampere's circuit law states that this line integral of the magnetic induction over a closed path is always equal to mu naught times I. So Ampere's law states that the line integral of the magnetic induction over a closed path is always equal to mu naught times I, which can be expressed in words as the Ampere's circuit law states that the line integral of the magnetic induction around a closed loop is always equal to the mu naught times the total current passing through the surface having the same boundaries of the loop. Okay? This is about the statement of the Ampere's circuit law. So in this mathematical form of the Ampere's circuit law, there are different terms. what is the meaning of the terms. First, suppose let us take this B bar. What is this B bar? Here there are 1, 2, 3, 4 current carrying conductors. All the current carrying conductors are producing the magnetic field. Whether the conductors are outside the loop or inside the loop, the total magnetic induction produced by the all the current carrying conductors, whether they are outside and inside the conductor, outside and inside the loop, are taken as B bar. Okay, B is the magnetic field produced by all conductors inside and outside the loop. There is one more term, IN. What is this IN? This IN is the algebraic sum of all the currents present only inside the loop. Okay, so algebraic sum of the currents passing through the conductors only inside the loop. That means here I1 is the current inside the loop, I2 is the current inside the loop. Only the two currents must be taken while calculating this IN value, whereas I3 and I4 are present outside the loop. That's why they should not be considered while calculating this IN value. That means while calculating this B bar value, we have to consider all the conductors inside the loop and outside the loop, whereas while calculating this IN value, we have to consider the conductors only present inside the loop. Okay? Next, here we are using one word, algebraic sum. What is meant by algebraic sum? That means while summing the currents, we have to follow the proper sign notation. So direction of some currents must be taken as positive and the directions opposite to that must be taken as negative. Here, what sign convention is to be followed here? Generally, the sign convention depends upon the direction of the loop. Now, let us see the sign convention what we are going to use here. Suppose this is the loop which is in the clockwise direction. Now, this is the DL bar generally which is along the tangent to the path and in the direction of the loop. Now, in these currents I1, I2, I3 and I4, two currents are entering into the board and two currents are coming out of the board. Now, for that currents, we have to follow the proper sign notation. For that, let us take your right hand. Now, curl your fingers in the direction of the loop like this. When you curl the fingers in the direction of the loop, the current which is passing in the direction of the thumb must be taken as positive and the current which is passing opposite to the thumb must be taken as negative. So see that loop. Here for the sign notation we have to follow the right hand rule. Curl the fingers of your right hand in the direction of the loop. Current in the direction of the thumb is taken as positive and the current in the opposite direction of the thumb is taken as negative. Now look into the picture here. If suppose we consider this I1, how it is? It is entering into the board. When you curl the fingers like this, so when you curl the fingers like this in the direction of the loop, how your thumb is? The thumb is entering into the board and this current I1 is also entering into the board. That's why the direction of the current I1 is in the direction of the thumb, so that we can take I1 as positive. If suppose we consider I2, how it is? I2 is coming out of the board, whereas the thumb is entering into the board, I2 is coming out of the board. That's why I2 has to be taken as negative. Similarly, by following the same rule, we can say that I3 is negative and I4 is positive. So use this proper sign notation to decide the sign of the current and take the algebraic sum of the currents inside the loop, which gives the IN value in the mathematical form of the Ampere's circuital law. Now, one more thing is, you may have doubt. What about this Amperean loop? Are there any rules to be followed while drawing that Ampere's loop? So that Amperean loop must be assumed such that the loop must be passing through the point at which we have to determine the strength of the magnetic field. The shape of the loop and the size of the loop may be in any shape and in any size. That means the Ampere's circuital law is valid for any shape and any size of the loop. Okay? But here, this Amperean's law is useful and we can easily solve the problems whenever some conditions are satisfied by this Ampere's law. Whenever some conditions are satisfied by the Amperean loop. The first one is, whenever we are assuming this closed loop, let us see that the loop must be symmetrical. The loop must be symmetrical. The second one is, while assuming the loop, see such that the direction of the magnetic induction and the direction of the magnetic induction and the element vector are either parallel to one another or perpendicular to one another. That means B bar and DL bar at each and every point of the loop may be either parallel to one another or perpendicular to one another. Then the problems can be easily solved by applying the Ampere's circuital law. Okay? So what are the conditions to be satisfied? The first one is, the loop is symmetrical. The second one is, at each and every point of the loop, B bar is either parallel or perpendicular to the element vector DL bar. Whenever these conditions are satisfied, then the law is useful and we can easily calculate the magnetic field produced by the given current carrying wires. Okay? Now, I am going to prove the Ampere's circuital law. For that, let us consider a long straight infinite current carrying conductor in which the current is coming out of the board like this and perpendicular to the board. Okay? Now, let I is the current passing through the conductor. Now here, let us assume that this is the first loop, this is the second loop and this is the third loop. See here, I assume 3 loops in the 3 different shapes. If suppose we prove that the integral, if we prove that the line integral of the magnetic induction over a closed path is equal to mu naught times I, then we can say that the Ampere's circuital law is proved. For that, first of all, I am going to take this symmetrical loop. For that, this is the symmetrical loop which is taken in the form of a circle. Okay? Now, on that circle, let us consider a small element of length dl. Now, let us assume the direction of the loop in the anti-clockwise direction like this. Okay? The direction of the loop is our choice. Here I assume the direction of the loop in the anti-clockwise direction. Then the element gives the dl bar. Let us assume that r is the radius of the circular loop assumed by us. Now, due to this current carrying conductor, let us assume that B bar is the magnetic induction. Already we know that from the right hand rule, if suppose the thumb indicates the direction of the current, then the curling fingers indicates the direction of the magnetic field. Here, the current is coming out of the board so that keep the thumb in the direction of the current, then the curling fingers gives the direction of the magnetic field, so that the direction of the magnetic field is along the tangent direction to the closed loop. So here, how this B bar and DL bar? B bar is along the tangent and DL bar is also along the tangent, so that the angle between them is equal to 0 degrees. Okay? Not only at that point, if we consider elements at different places, here also this is the direction of the DL and this is the direction of the B bar. Like this, at each and every point, this DL bar and B bar both are acting along the tangent direction, so that they are parallel to one another and the angle between them is equal to 0 degrees. Okay? Now, I am going to calculate the integral B bar dot DL bar over the closed path. Already we know that the dot product of two vectors A bar dot B bar is equal to AB cos theta. From that we have integral B bar dot DL bar is equal to integral B DL cos theta. Here what is theta? Theta is equal to 0 degrees. We know that cos 0 is equal to 1, so that this is equal to integral B DL. Here what is B? B is the magnetic induction. We assume the loop in the symmetrical shape. That's why each and every point of the loop is at same distance from the given wire. That's why the magnetic induction produced by the wire at each and every point is also same, so that can be taken outside the integration and it becomes B integral DL. What is integral DL? Integral DL is nothing but L. That's why this line integral of B bar over the closed path is found to be BL. What is this L? L is the length of the closed path along which we are taking the integration. Here, the closed path is in the shape of the circle. That's why this L value is equal to the length of the closed path, which is equal to the circumference of the circle, which is equal to 2 pi r. Okay? What is this B? B is the magnetic induction produced by the long straight wire at a distance r, which is known for us, that is given by B is equal to mu naught I divided by 2 pi r. Now, substitute this B value and L value in this equation, it becomes mu naught I divided by 2 pi r into 2 pi r. So, this 2 pi r and 2 pi r are cancelled. From this we have integral B bar dot DL bar is equal to mu naught I, which is nothing but the mathematical form of the Ampere's circuital law. So that we can simply say that the Ampere's circuital law is proved and it is verified for this symmetrical path. Similarly, for the second path also, I am going to prove the Ampere's circuital law. Okay? Now we are going to prove the Ampere's circuital law for the loop A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, J, K, L, M, A. So this loop is also a closed loop, but not a symmetrical loop. Now, when you see this diagram, this AB, EF and JK are having equal radius. Let it be R1. Whereas this CD, GH and LM are having equal radius, let it be R2. Now to verify the Ampere's circuit law, I am going to calculate B bar dot DL value for each and every portion of the arc. By adding all that B bar dot DL bar values, we can prove the Ampere's circuit law. First of all, let us consider the AB arc. For arc AB, I am going to calculate B bar dot DL bar value. For that, let us consider a small element of length DL in arc AB. Let us assume that this small element is subtending a small angle d theta at the center of the arc. Now, let us consider the direction of the loop in the anti-clockwise direction like this. Now, the element vector is directed like this, and the magnetic field produced by the current carrying conductor at that small element is also along the tangent direction to the arc. That's why dB bar, that's why B bar is always acting along the tangent to the arc as shown in the figure. DL bar is along the tangent direction and B bar is also along the tangent direction at that position of the element. Now, if suppose we take B bar dot DL bar value, what is it? This is equal to B DL cos theta. Here what is theta? Theta is the angle between DL bar and B bar, which is equal to 0, so that we can write it as B DL. What is this B? B is the magnetic field produced by the current carrying wire at a distance of R1, that means at the position of the element of length DL. By using the Biot-Savart's law, already we derived the equation for the magnetic induction due to a long straight wire at a distance. From that equation we can write it as B is equal to mu naught I divided by 2 pi D. This is the formula. Now in this case, the distance of the arc from the current carrying conductor is R1. That's why substitute that B value, it becomes mu naught I divided by 2 pi R1. And what is the DL? DL is the length of the small element. Here we know the radius of the arc and also angle subtended by the small element at the center of the circle. By using this R value and d theta value, the length of the arc can be determined. That is given by DL is equal to R d theta. So by substituting here itself, it becomes R1 d theta. So R1 gets cancelled and we have B bar dot DL bar is equal to mu naught I divided by 2 pi into d theta. If suppose we determine the B bar dot DL bar of this entire arc AB by using the integration, it becomes integral A to B B bar dot DL bar is equal to integral mu naught I divided by 2 pi d theta. This mu naught I by 2 pi is constant that can be taken outside the integration, and this is equal to mu naught I divided by 2 pi and integral d theta is equal to theta, which is nothing but the angle subtended by the arc AB. That's why we have, so integral AB b bar dot dl bar is equal to mu naught I by 2 pi theta AB. Let it be equation number 1. By using the same procedure for CD arc, for EF arc, for GH arc, for JK arc, for LM arc also we can determine the b bar dot dl bar value over the arc. Okay, so b bar dot dl bar for arc CD is given by mu naught I divided by 2 pi theta CD. Okay, so similarly we can find out the magnetic induction, we can find out b bar dot dl bar for different arcs. Okay, now in addition to the arc shapes, there are also straight shape BC, ED, FG, JH, KL and ME. For this straight path of the loop, what is b bar dot dl bar value? We know that for this BC, dl bar is acting along this direction, which is in the radially outward direction, whereas the magnetic field produced by the current carrying conductor is along the tangent to the circle. That's why this is the direction of the b bar value. Here b bar is along the tangent direction, whereas the dl bar is along the radially outward direction, and the angle between them is equal to 90 degrees. That's why for that straight path AB, if we determine b bar dot dl bar value, that b bar dot dl bar value is equal to b dl cos 90. We know that cos 90 is equal to 0. 0 into something is equal to 0. That's why for the straight part BC, b bar dot dl bar is equal to 0, and also similarly for ED and for FG and for JH, so on, for all the straight parts of the loop, b bar dot dl bar is equal to 0. Now we have b bar dot dl bar for the arc shapes and also for the straight portions of the given closed loop. By adding them, we get the line integral of the b bar over the closed path. So integral b bar dot dl bar over the closed path is equal to integral a to b b bar dot dl bar plus integral b to c b bar dot dl bar plus integral c to d b bar dot dl bar plus so on. So already for the AB arc, the b bar dot dl bar is found to be mu naught I by 2 pi into theta AB, plus for the straight portion this is equal to 0, plus for the CD arc mu naught I divided by 2 pi into theta CD plus O. So we can write it as mu naught I divided by 2 pi of theta AB plus theta CD plus so on. If we add the angles subtended by all arcs A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, J, K, L, M, we get the total angle subtended at the center of the circle, that is equal to 2 pi. So that we can write it as mu naught I divided by 2 pi into 2 pi. This 2 pi cancels, and we have the integral b bar dot dl bar is equal to mu naught I, which is the mathematical form of the Ampere's circuital law. That's why in the previous part we prove the Ampere's circuital law for the symmetrical shape. Here we prove the Ampere's circuital law for the non-symmetrical shape, and also we can prove the Ampere's circuital law for any shape of the loop. But while assuming the loop or the Amperean's loop, we have to see that the loop must be symmetrical, then only the law is useful for us to solve the problems in the easiest way. Okay? Now, using this Ampere's circuital law, I am going to derive the equations for the current carrying conductors. See the first one, the magnetic field due to infinite straight current carrying wire. Infinite straight current carrying wire. We have done this already using the Biot-Savart's law, and we are going to do here by using the Ampere's circuital law. For that, let us take a long straight current carrying wire. Let I is the current passing through the wire in the upward direction. We know that current carrying wire produces the magnetic field. Now, we want to determine the magnetic field produced by the wire at point P. Let the point P is at a perpendicular distance d from the given wire. At that point, we are going to derive the equation for the magnetic induction value. For that, what we have to do? We have to assume the closed path which is passing through the point P and symmetrical about the given wire. For that, I assume the closed loop in the form of a circle so that the center of the circle coincides with the current carrying wire. Okay? So, this is the Amperean loop or the closed path which we assumed. See, that is passing through the point P, and that loop is symmetrical about the current carrying wire so that the center of the loop coincides with the current carrying wire. Now, for that loop, I am going to apply the Ampere's circuital law. For that, let us consider a small element of the loop whose length is equal to dl. Okay? Now, let us assume the direction of the Amperean loop in the anti-clockwise direction like this. That's why the direction of the element vector is given by this vector dl bar, which is along the tangent to the circle. And due to this long straight wire, the magnetic field can be determined by using the right hand rule. Using that right hand rule, if suppose we determine the direction of the magnetic field, that direction of the magnetic field is also along the tangent to the circle, and let it be B bar. Okay? Here dl bar and B bar both are in the direction of the tangent drawn to the circle, and the same can be easily understanding by observing the situation from the top view. If suppose we see the things from the top view, what we can observe? So we can observe that there is a current carrying wire in which the current is passing perpendicular to the board and coming out of the board like this. Okay? Now, this is the Amperean loop which is passing through the point P. Now, this is the assumed element, this is the dl bar, and this is the B bar. Both are in the tangent to the circular path. Okay? Now, For that element, let us take b bar dot dl bar value. After that, I am going to determine the b bar dot dl bar value over the closed path, which is given by integral b bar dot dl bar is equal to integral b dl cos 0. Why here I took 0? Why? Because the angle between these two elements is the angle between these two vectors is equal to 0. So theta is equal to 0 degrees. That's why we can write it as b bar dot dl bar is equal to b dl cos theta. Here theta is equal to 0. That's why we can write it as integral b dl cos theta, cos 0. We know that cos 0 is equal to 1 and b is constant everywhere on this symmetrical loop due to this current carrying conductor. That's why this b can be taken outside the integration and we can write it as b integral dl. Already we know that integral dl is equal to L. What is this L? L is the length of the closed path along which we are taking the integration. Here the closed path is in the form of the circle. That's why the length of the closed path is equal to the circumference of the circle, which is equal to 2 pi d. Now substitute this length value in this equation. It becomes integral b bar dot dl bar is equal to b times 2 pi d. So here we obtain the line integral of b bar over the closed path and it is obtained as b 2 pi d. Already we know that the mathematical form of the Ampere's law is integral b bar dot dl bar is equal to mu naught times I in. b bar dot dl bar is equal to mu naught times I in. Here by substituting this value we have b 2 pi d is equal to mu naught times what is I in here? I in is the current passing through the conductor inside the loop. There is only one conductor inside the loop and that current is coming out of the board. Is it positive or negative? Here we assume the direction of the loop in the anti-clockwise direction like this. That's why curl your fingers in the direction of the loop in the anti-clockwise direction like this. Then the thumb is coming out of the board. This current is also coming out of the board in the direction of the thumb. That's why we have to take that I in is equal to I with positive sign. So that b 2 pi d is equal to mu naught I. By taking this 2 pi d to that side, we have b is equal to mu naught I divided by 2 pi d. Okay? This one gives the expression for the magnetic field produced by the long straight current carrying wire. See, the same result is also obtained in the Biot-Savart's law. But what is the difference between that one and this one? In that derivation, there is a complicated mathematical solutions including integrations and complex mathematics. Whereas in this case, by using the closed path in the shape of a symmetrical shape circle, the integration becomes simple and we easily derive that equation for the magnetic field produced by the current carrying wire. That b is equal to mu naught I divided by 2 pi d. Here I is the current passing through the given conductor, d is the distance of the point from the conductor. Now come to the second application in which the magnetic field due to the infinite current carrying hollow cylinder. In the previous one, we studied the magnetic field produced by the long straight wire, whereas here we are going to determine the magnetic field due to the infinite current carrying hollow cylinder. For that, let us consider a cylinder. Let it be of infinite length. Let it be of infinite length. This is the axis of the cylinder which is passing through the center and parallel to the length of the cylinder. Okay. Now here the cylinder is carrying current only along its surface like this. This is the hollow cylinder. Inside the cylinder there is no current, only the cylinder is carrying the current along its surface. Only along the surface the cylinder is carrying current like this. Let I is the amount of the current passing through the surface of the cylinder, and let R is the radius of the cylinder. Here I is the current on the surface of the cylinder and R is the radius of the cylinder. Now due to this current carrying cylinder, I am going to derive the expression for the magnetic induction produced at a point outside the cylinder and at a point inside the cylinder as the two separate cases. Okay. For that, in case 1, let us consider that the point is located outside the cylinder at a perpendicular distance of d from the axis of the cylinder. Okay. Here P is the point where we want to determine the magnetic induction value, and that point P is at a distance d from the axis of the cylinder. Okay. Here because the point is located outside the cylinder, the distance d is greater than the radius of the cylinder. That means for outside point d is greater than r. At that point we want to find out b value. For that what we have to do? Let us imagine the Amperian loop which is passing through a point P. Now to understand the concept in the simple way, let us see the cylinder from the top view. Okay. So this is the surface of the cylinder which is carrying current I. How the current is passing? Is it passing inside the cylinder or only on the surface of the cylinder? The current is passing only on the surface of the cylinder. That too, the current is coming out of the cylinder, so that this is the representation of the current passing through the surface of the cylinder. Okay. So at each and every point on the surface of the cylinder is carrying a current. That's why the current on the surface is represented by these encircled dots. Okay. Now here we want to find out the magnetic induction at point P. For that, let us imagine the Amperian loop in the form of a circle which is passing through the point P. That too, the loop is symmetrical about the cylinder. It means the center of the loop must be coinciding with the axis of the cylinder. Okay. Now for this loop I am going to apply the Ampere's circuit law. For that, let us consider a small element of length dl. If suppose we consider the loop in the anti-clockwise direction, what is the dl bar direction? Dl bar is along the tangent direction and acting upwards like this. And because of all these currents, the direction of the magnetic induction is also acting along the tangent to the circle. That's why here also b bar dot dl bar is equal to b dl. Okay. Now I am going to apply the Ampere's circuit law here. What is the mathematical form of the Ampere circuit law? The integral b bar dot dl bar is equal to mu naught times In. So this can be written as integral b dl cos 0 is equal to mu naught times, what is In here? In is the current inside the closed loop, which is nothing but the current passing on the surface of the cylinder I. Okay. We can write it as b integral dl is equal to mu naught I. Already we know that integral dl is equal to L. That's why we can write it as BL is equal to mu naught I. What is this L? L is the length of the closed path along which we are taking the integration, which is equal to the circumference of the circle 2 pi d. By substituting this L value, we have B into 2 pi d is equal to mu naught I. From this we have B is equal to mu naught I divided by 2 pi d. That's why the magnetic induction, due to the infinite current carrying hollow cylinder at a point outside the cylinder, is given by B is equal to mu naught I divided by 2 pi d. Here d is the perpendicular distance of the point from the axis of the cylinder. Similarly, in the second case, I am going to calculate the magnetic induction at a point inside the cylinder as shown in the figure. Okay, here let us consider the point P, which is at a perpendicular distance d inside the cylinder. Because the point P is inside the cylinder, the distance of the point is less than the radius of the cylinder. Now, at that point P, inside the cylinder, I am going to calculate the magnetic induction value. For that, let us consider the Amperian loop in the form of a circle as shown in the diagram. To understand that, let us again see the top view of the figure. So, this is the surface of the cylinder over which the current is passing, which can be represented by means of the encircled dots as shown in the figure. Okay, here this is the current passing through the surface of the cylinder. Okay, now this is the point P. Now this is the closed loop assumed by us. Okay, now from the Ampere's circuit law, we know that integral B bar dot dl bar is equal to mu naught times I in. See that figure. The entire current is passing on the surface of the cylinder, whereas the closed path is inside the cylinder. Is there any current enclosed by the closed path? So, in this closed path, there is no current. That's why the current passing through the closed path is equal to 0. That means this I in is equal to 0. If I in is equal to 0, what happened? Then the right hand side of the equation, mu naught times I in is equal to 0. Whenever this is equal to 0, then the magnetic induction is also equal to 0. That's why whenever we consider a point inside the cylinder, the magnetic induction is equal to 0. Okay? At a point outside, there is magnetic induction, whereas at a point inside the cylinder, there is no magnetic field and there is no magnetic induction. This variation can be represented by means of a graph by taking the distance of the point D on the x-axis and the magnetic induction B on the y-axis. Let it be the radius of the cylinder. We know that when the distance of the point is less than the radius, that means whenever the point is inside the cylinder, the magnetic induction is equal to 0. Whereas the magnetic induction value is varying according to the formula B is equal to mu naught I divided by 2 pi d outside the cylinder, so that B is proportional to 1 by d. That's why the variation will be like this. Okay, this graph gives the variation of the magnetic field with the distance d from the axis of the cylinder. Okay, the magnetic induction is having maximum value at the surface of the cylinder and it decreases inversely with the distance of the point from the axis. Okay? This is about the magnetic field due to the infinite straight current carrying hollow cylinder in which the current is passing over the surface of the cylinder. Now come to the another case which is the different from the previous case. I am going to calculate the magnetic field due to infinite straight current carrying cylindrical wire in which the current is uniformly distributed across the cross section. In the previous case, the current is passing only along the surface of the cylinder, whereas here the current is uniformly distributed across the entire cross section of the cylinder. For this, again let us consider a cylinder of infinite length. Let it be the axis of the cylinder. Let R is the radius of the cylinder. Let us assume that the cylinder is carrying a current I, so that the current is distributed uniformly across the cross section of the cylinder like this. In the previous case, the current is only present on the surface, whereas here the current is distributed across the entire cross section of the cylinder as shown in the figure. Let I is the current and R is the radius of the cylinder. Here also, at a point outside the cylinder and at a point inside the cylinder, I am going to derive the equation for the magnetic induction produced by the current carrying cylinder. For that, in the first case, let us consider a point P which is at a perpendicular distance d from the axis of the cylinder outside the cylinder. Because the point is located outside the cylinder, the distance of the point D is greater than the radius of the cylinder, so that D is greater than R. Then what we have to do? Here also the procedure is same. Again, let us consider the Amperian loop in the form of a symmetrical circle as shown in that figure. So, for the derivation, again let us consider the top view of the cylinder like this. Okay? Here the current is distributed uniformly across the entire cross section. That's why the current is represented by means of the dots as shown in the figure across the entire cross section. Now, this is the point P which is located outside the cylinder. D is the distance of the point. Here also, let us consider the direction of the loop in the anti-clockwise direction like this. To calculate the B value at point P, again let us consider a small element of length dl, and dl bar is along the tangent direction and B bar is also along the tangent direction like this. Here also, by applying the Ampere's circuit law, we have integral B bar dot dl bar is equal to mu naught I in, and by doing the integration just like the previous concept, we have B is equal to mu naught I divided by 2 pi d. So, this is the case where the point is located outside the cylindrical wire. If suppose the point is located inside the cylindrical wire, then what we have to do? Let us consider a point inside the cylinder at a perpendicular distance d from the axis of the cylinder. To determine the magnetic induction at point P, let us consider a loop in the form of a circle passing through that point P which is symmetrical about the axis of the cylinder. Now, to derive the equation, let us consider the top view of the cylinder. Here, this is the current carrying cylinder in which the current is distributed uniformly across the entire cross section of the cylinder as shown in the figure. Okay. Now, here this is the point P and this is the Amperian loop. For that Amperian loop, D is the radius. Now here what we have to do? Here also I am going to apply the Ampere's circuital law. For this, let us consider a small element of length dl, and this is the dl bar which is along the tangent to the circle, and dB bar is also acting along the tangent direction like this. Okay. Here dl bar is acting along the tangent direction and B bar is also acting along the tangent direction to the circle. That's why from the Ampere's circuital law we can write integral B bar dot dl bar is equal to mu naught times In. Now this can be written as integral B dl cos 0 is equal to mu naught times what is In? My question is the entire current passing through the loop assumed by us? No. Is the entire current outside the loop assumed by us? No. In this case, I am going to first calculate the current passing through the loop assumed by us. For that, what is the total current? The total current is equal to I. What is the radius of the cylinder? The radius of the cylinder is equal to R. Then what is the area of the cross section? What is the area of the cross section? The area of the cross section A is equal to pi R square for the given cylinder. By knowing the total current value and the total area of the cross section, then can you determine the current density value? The current density is equal to current passing through 1 unit area of the cross section, that is J is equal to I by A, which is equal to I by pi R square. Now, what is the radius of the loop assumed by us? The radius of the loop assumed by us is equal to D. That's why the area of the cross section of the loop is equal to pi D square. This is the loop assumed by us. For this loop, the area of the cross section is given by pi D square. By knowing the current density value and the area of the cross section of the loop, the current passing inside the loop is given by I in is equal to J times pi D square. J times pi D square. Now, let us substitute this in the place of I in. Okay. So, first of all, I calculate I in value. That I in value is going to be substituted in the Ampere's circuital law equation. Okay. Now we can write it as B integral dl is equal to mu naught times I in. So we can write it as BL is equal to mu naught times I in. So here L is nothing but the length of the closed loop assumed by us, which is nothing but the circumference of the circle. By substituting this L value and I in value, we get it as B 2 pi D is equal to mu naught times J pi D square. Okay. By taking this at 2 pi D to that side, we have B is equal to mu naught J pi d square divided by 2 pi d. This square and d are cancelled. Pi also cancelled. So from this we have b is equal to mu naught j d divided by 2. Sometimes j value is directly given for us, sometimes without giving the j value, the current value and the radius of the cylinder are given. In that case we can write it as mu naught I d divided by 2 pi r square. So these are the expressions for the magnetic field produced by the current carrying cylinder at a point inside the cylinder whenever the current is uniformly distributed across the entire cross section of the wire. See the difference between the previous case and this case. In the previous case, in case of the hollow cylinder which is carrying the current over the surface, at a point inside the cylinder, the magnetic induction is equal to 0, whereas here it is not equal to 0. If suppose we draw a graph for the variation of the B with the distance from the axis of the cylinder, the graph will be like this. In the previous derivation, we obtained as B out is equal to mu naught I divided by 2 pi d, which is inversely proportional to the distance of the point, whereas at a point inside the cylinder, B in is equal to mu naught j divided by 2, which is directly proportional to the distance of the point. That's why up to the surface of the cylinder, B is directly proportional to d, whereas after the surface of the cylinder, the B is inversely proportional to d. That's why the graph is like this. So this graph gives the variation of the magnetic field at a distance d from the axis of the cylinder when the current is uniformly distributed. In the previous case, the graph is like this. Here B is equal to 0, whereas here B is proportional to 1 by r when the distance of the point is greater than the radius. That means when the point is outside the cylinder, this is the formula. When the point is inside the cylinder, B is equal to 0 in the previous example. Whereas in this example, inside the cylinder and outside the cylinder also, the magnetic field is produced, and that variation can be represented by this graph. Similar to this, for any given wire, for any given case, just by assuming the closed loop in the form of a symmetrical shape and by applying the Ampere's circuit law, we can determine the magnetic field produced in any case. Okay? I think you understand the Ampere's circuit law and also its application to determine the calculation of the magnetic field due to the wire, hollow cylinder and the cylinder in which the current is uniformly distributed across the cross section. Okay? So we'll meet in the next session. Thank you one and all.